Okay, I'm gonna be honest, by the way. This is the most fun chamber we've had in a pretty long fucking time.
Yeah, this chamber has to just be an experiment. It's a thought experiment. How hard can we push our players? How hard can we push our players before they quit?
Ain't no way. Ain't no fucking way. Let's talk about this lineup, and let's talk about the units that are way better and way worse than usual really quickly. This is not gonna make it into the meta roundup. Like, I'll think about it more. But I can give you my like initial impressions of the kind of units that you should be considering that usually you wouldn't. So first off, Beidou. Beidou is so fucking good this Abyss. Because as it turns out, when the enemies are very good at killing you, and there's exactly 2 of them, having a character that's incredible when there's exactly 2 targets, and that gives you resistance to interruption and damage reduction, tends to be pretty good. So if you're playing Taser teams or Aggravate teams, you should consider maybe replacing one of your units for Beidou. Beidou is very good this Abyss. Kaveh. Kaveh is a fucking dog shit unit. But if you really hate yourself and you want to play Nilo Bloom, he has blunt attacks as he is a Claymore, which is going to help you break the Abyss Herald's shield a little bit faster. So if you really want to push Nilo teams, this is actually basically the only Abyss ever where Kaveh is not going to be useless. Now, Vayne is kind of the same. I mean, kinda, but it's a lot slower. The thing is, Kanaga's is always good in Nilo teams, so... But she's definitely something that you should consider if you don't have a leveled up Kaveh, right? If your Nilo team is Nilo, Yao Yao or Beidou, Nahida, and a Hydro unit, having that Hydro unit be conducted can actually be pretty good. Who else? Jean. Jean's tap E is 2U, and her burst initial hit is also 2U. And also, her burst deals animal damage every time enemies enter and exit, which actually matters when the enemies are fucking Omega Dies of Cringe and move everywhere. So it will actually swirl somewhat reasonably often, which can help you break this shield somewhat quickly by swirling the Cryo shields onto this one. And then, on top of that, the Sunfire can break these shields pretty quickly. If you play a Yoimiya team on the second side because, I don't know, you hate yourself, you can consider using Nahida there, because she can help you deal with the shields. Thoma in general is just really good this Abyss. Because the second side is very reliant on basically always having Pyro, and he's one of the defensive options that Pyro has, and he doesn't self-apply. He doesn't apply Pyro to your active character like Bennett does, so he doesn't make you vulnerable to getting melted or vaped. I mean, Burgeon in general is just very nice this Abyss. Yeah, kind of good this Abyss. Yeah, it's pretty good. I think the biggest issue is, in this Abyss, I don't actually think I'd ever play Yai over Beidou. Because the defensive utility that you get from Beidou, and the fact that you're basically always against either 2 or 3 enemies, Beidou just does better. Beidou sucks in single target. Yeah, Beidou's not very good in single target, in terms of just her output, but the only single target chamber on the first side is this one, and it's a fucking joke compared to the other 2. And she's really good, both on Chamber 1 and on Chamber 3. Because she has AoE that doesn't need to be repositioned or, like, recast after you kill the first wave. So it makes killing, like, 2 waves at once in one rotation a lot more easily. A lot more easy. But yeah, also, I tried playing International, but Charlotte really gets frozen to death. Yeah, I think International is a lot harder to play than usual in this, because this has a lot of multi-wave stuff with really squishy enemies. which can kind of make it hard unless you reach the breakpoints to one-rotate enemies without a setup. And these enemies, you're playing a team with no resistance or interruption, with no damage reduction either, against enemies that are just so incredibly fucking aggressive. And more importantly, the shield part is harder than the pre-shield part. Like, it's not as important to have high DPS before the shield break once you reach a certain amount of investment, and you'd rather just min-max your shield breaking and sacrifice a little bit of damage for that. Speaking of which, you can very much consider playing International but replacing your Animo with Dendro, or replacing your Xiangling with Dendro, the good old Intergrational. The main thing about this is that the Baptist is not very tanky, right? Like, it's not squishy, but it's, compared to the other bosses, it is, right? It has 1.3 mil HP. You compare that to, like, Primo Geovishap, right? He has half the health that Primo Geovishap has, right? So, you can either get a team that can deal with the elemental checks really quickly, and that has fine DPS, and you can clear it, or you can get a team that has really good DPS and a cope way of dealing with the shields. Because you can basically kill it in a rotation and a half. Yeah, actually, that's a good point. Melt Ganyu should be pretty good this Abyss, because you've got the Bennett Channeling Core to deal with this, you've got Ganyu to deal with this, and you can brute force this. And it's actually a team that almost always fits a shielder anyways. Zhongli ult is also actually better than you guys might give it credit for shield breaking. It basically removes 2 units of every element. So just pretty decent for shield breaking. Because it's 4U of Geo, so it removes 2U of basically any aura. I mean, Rev Melt in general should be good. And yeah, on the last chamber, keep your Zhongli ult for the Pyro Shield. So I Burn Melt, Ganyu with Dehya second. Yeah, don't do that. Don't do Burn Melt. Just do the good old Bennett, Zhongli, Xiangling, Hu Tao. Yeah, I mean, yeah, Hu Tao can be good this Abyss.